I've had plenty of time to think about what to include in this speech. Not just in the time I sat by Dad's side as the end drew near, and not in the 9 months from his diagnosis until his death, but in the 35 wonderful years I did have with him, which has given me an abundance of memories to fill a few minutes. So how do I choose? How do I select just a handful of memories to share with the world that sum up just how much I love and miss you? This is the first speech I've ever given that I haven't run past Dad. Practiced my posture and flailed my arms in frustration when I wound up tongue-tied, followed by fits of giggling when I spat out some spoonerism that should never be repeated. Slow down, he'd say. You always speed up when you're nervous. Breathe. Look up and let your audience relate to you. I'm standing in a room full of people of all walks of life. From family to students, academics, business women and men, school friends. So how do I relate to all of you and you to each other? What is it that brings us all here together today? That makes us stop, if only for a moment, in our busy lives on a Friday afternoon in midwinter? Dad. Dad's the common thread that stitches us all together here today. And while I know your memories will be very different to mine, I'm going to share some of the things that make me smile when I look back at my time with him. Dad was incredibly gifted at making a complex notion understood. For lack of a better term, he could dumb things down, which not only came in handy during his career in advertising, but also when he began teaching, which he absolutely adored. Watching the minds of others grow and learn, and even better when they began to start challenging him. When I was in junior school, Mrs. James presented a challenge to our Year 3 class on the last day of term. Whoever could learn their times tables first would win a book. Not being much of a reader, I couldn't care less about winning a book, despite my competitive nature. But when she presented to the class a unicorn book, it was game on. I was obsessed. I practiced every day of the break and was getting better and better at my times tables. Dad would quiz me constantly, and gradually the mistakes became fewer and my response times quicker, except for 8 times 8. No matter how many times I repeated 8 times 8, I couldn't get it. The result was floods of tears and wails that I wouldn't win my precious prize. After I'd composed myself, Dad came into my room and told me that I needed to come with him. Pouting and slightly glassy-eyed, I followed him into the living room, where he'd set up the record player and was removing Sgt. Pepper's from its colourful sleeve. He lowered the vinyl onto the player, and as it began to spin, the crackly voices of the Beatles proceeded to teach me my final sum, as he had dubbed When I'm 64 to 8/8 of 64. I returned to school and won that book. And you won't believe me if I tell you the sum that got me across the line. Dad was a loyal, honest and inspirational man that always put Mum and me first. Nothing was too much for his girls. He epitomised the perfect gentleman, and inevitably, as such, has become the benchmark against which all others are measured. Probably explains why I'm still single. He was a sentimental man. Upon cleaning out some of his drawers recently, I found an empty bottle of my perfume in one of his drawers. I knew exactly what it was for in my top drawer in London was a bottle of his aftershave that would comfort me greatly in times of homesickness when held to the nose with closed eyes. I had no idea he practiced the same ritual. In early May, I got a text from Mum saying that I'd better get to the hospital quickly because we didn't have much time left with Dad. Excuse me. Right. On the way to the hospital, I was panicked. What if I didn't get there in time? What if I didn't get to thank him for every single thing he'd ever done? For coming to all my hockey games on cold winter's mornings at boarding school, especially as I wasn't even very good at hockey. or apologise for everything that seems so important, for breaking heirloom crystal and blaming it on the cat, for chopping all my hair off the day before school photos, for wasting time pining after dickheads. But we did get there, and we spent a precious week together as a family, talking, laughing, crying, reminiscing. When he was conscious, we talked about the past and the future. In less lucid moments, he told me to look out for a Jamaican called Monty and to beware of Rupert Murdoch. His wonderful sense of humour carried us all until the end. He even had the nurses giggling away, despite his pain, and in tears when he finally passed. More and more, every day, as life returns to normal, we miss you. The news we want to share, the questions we need to ask, even the occasional glance to your favourite spots around the house that we might hope that you will still see you there. But you taught us to be strong, and because of that we won't pine for you or mope in sadness, but we will live our lives richer for having had you in it. Far later.